as you can see. They've managed to secure the link to the helicopter today from the bike, so we'll have some downstairs pictures as well. Who else is in the breakaway today then? We've got Kamil Gradiek. He's in the red and white, if you see. He's running second at the moment, as you can see. And he has had some pretty decent results as well. He's only 25 years of age, but he was runner-up in the Polish National Time Trial Championship. So he can set a rhythm, and that's precisely what you need in a breakaway such as this, with reasonably benign terrain to deal with. As you can see, Arnaud Demar and many others sparing thoughts, of course, and offering up some unity and solidarity to the people of Belgium who are suffering today. Thomas de Gendt is also in the breakaway. Thomas de Gendt, of course, magnificent in the Giro d'Italia. As we cut back to our finish line today, that's actually downhill with a descent of about 2%, but that will help some of those who are not really in the best of shape at the end of today's run, which is a decent 178 kilometres. Thomas de Gendt, who went up the Stelvio like a spring chicken, he's in the breakaway a couple of years ago, you may remember, so always capable. Could probably do with it being a bit more lumpy. And Maxime Bouet is also with us, and also sitting alongside me is Magnus Baxted. Magnus, somber mood today, hardly surprising with what's gone on in Belgium. Just your thoughts really on the races that are coming up, and you know, I think all we can say is we hope everyone stays safe.
Yeah, I mean, it's a big program that's coming up in Belgium, and obviously it's a scary thought that this happens so close to the races that we got coming up. So just hope that we get, you know, everyone through this period safely, and my thoughts go out to all my friends out in Belgium, and I hope everyone is safe out there.
Anyone who loves cycling has got mates in Belgium. It's as simple as that. And when the airports hit, which is where a lot of teams, of course, would have been hoping to fly into, sorry to have such a somber start to the day, but the weight of the incidents and the significance of it is, of course, echoing not only around the world, but particularly rocking the world of cycling at the moment. We've got E3 Harelbeke about to start. We've got Flanders, of course, coming up, Paris-Roubaix.
Gent-Wevelgem on Sunday.
Yeah, exactly. It's it just makes you realise how serious just life is at the moment. Anyway, we entertain ourselves with cycling between the tragedies, and just hope that the distance between those becomes bigger and bigger, and we can put those to one side one day. 61 kilometres to go then, and the tweets will continue to roll in, and we'll let you address them yourselves. But Greg van Avermaet, of course, also thinking of those back home. So the gap today for our breakaway has never really been allowed to max at more than, what, 2.5, 3 minutes. I think it just nudged Magnus. Everyone's a bit nervy today. I think because the approach is quite benign, and we're expecting a sprint finish. Last year it was absolutely shedding it down with rain, and we still got a bunch sprint. Today it's near perfect conditions. We're going to have a bunch sprint, surely.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be a bunch sprint, but the running to the finish is actually very difficult indeed. It's although the final couple of 100 meters are sort of slightly descending, but you got a good kilometer-long climb up to that point. So it is a tough finish, but I think it's something that, you know, a lot of the sprinters should get over. Certainly the likes of Ben Swift and probably Bouhanni, the way he's going at the moment. So I think that's why we've also seen the fact that the Cofidis are helping with the pacemaking in the bunch, and not letting these guys get too big a gap either, because well, there's two ways of doing it. I think Movistar and Team Sky have also been on the front and doing the fair share of their fair share of the work. They want to make it hard and want to keep the pace high all the time, and obviously out of pure safety factor of not letting these guys, because there are some pretty strong riders in this group out front here. You don't want to let them get too big a gap, because it becomes very difficult to bring them back in.
Maxime Bouet, by the way, of Ethics Quick-Step, he's in. He's just rolling to the 4. In fact, he's just at the back having a comfort break, so we'll leave him to his to do his duty. 29 years of age. He was ninth in the Haute Var just recently, so he can take a few peaks, and apparently his legs are in excellent shape at the moment. Wanty pushing on with Boris Stron, who's now is now effectively the leader of the King of the Mountains jersey competition. For Wanty, he's in the blue here with the white sash across his tummy. There's Kamil Gradziek of Poland. He's the bigger of the guys here. He's a fantastic individual time trialist. And so he's been taking more than his fair share of turns out front. I suspect the man who might suffer the most here is actually Thomas de Gent, bizarrely. When he shot up the Stelvio a couple of years ago in 2012, I was actually there, and the shock waves that rang out amongst the peloton, they hadn't given him enough respect because they didn't think he could climb such an amazing peak as that, failing to realise that it was actually his training ground, and he lived very close by for much of the year, so he knew every inch of it, when to attack, when to hide himself. And in fact, at one point during that climb, he was the virtual leader of the race and actually could have taken the Giro d'Italia that year. I think he finished third in the end. It was a spectacular moment for him, and indeed for Belgium, and so I suspect he'll be wanting to go well today. For those back home, those long transition days today, where we were used to seeing them in the Vuelta, the Grand Tour of Spain, of course. Magnus, these days we were kind of used to them, but they seem to have built a bit more interest, generally speaking, into the Grand Tours. But we've got quite a hiatus now. 56 kilometres of not a great deal happening. And in fact, we're going to come to Magnus in just a few moments' time. But first of all, we're going to have a chat with Chris Froome, I believe. But it looks like they may be holding that back just for now. Magnus, we've been used to Spain and these long transitions. It's a vast country, and you have to bridge the gap between not very much.
Well, that is true, but you know, you got to have these flatter days as well. You can't climb all the time or descend all the time. You need the flat in between, for certainly more for the riders than anything else to recover. So. Yeah, it is what it is.
Personally speaking, on a day like this, I'd preferred it to have been a time trial, quite frankly. But there you go, that's just me. Chris Froome is back out of his winter training. Let's hear what he's got to say about this day.
I feel good. The goal is to get some good miles racing. It's been a long time since I've raced now, especially at a World Tour level. So just hoping to get the miles in and hopefully be up there when the racing gets tough.
You began really strong in the Radisson Tour. Are you still at the same shape level?
Hopefully I'm a bit stronger than I was when I started the season. So let's see.
The lineup is really high. It's already a big test.
Yeah, it's a great level here. I mean, we really do have a lot of big names here, so it's great for the race and great for the rivalry. I hope that tomorrow we can see.
Chris Froome looks disgracefully fit, happy, calm, and it's when he's like that he's at his most dangerous, Magnus Backstedt.
Well, he certainly is very dangerous, and even if he's not at his fittest and at his best just yet, it's too early in the season for him to be that. But you know, he will still come and look to leave his mark on this particular race.
He's a guy a bit like you, in that he has great individual discipline. He can go off and train, and Sky aren't worried about him. Other riders, they can't kind of believe that they're actually going to do the hours and put in the hurt, and he's been out of competition for quite a while, but we're not worried about that because we've seen him return after a long training run absolutely on his game, and you were pretty much the same, weren't you?
Yeah, I did like my doing my training, but you know, with any rider at any level, the racing is what's going to give you that final bit of sharpness. You can train yourself to a certain point in cycling, but then you need the race miles, because it doesn't matter how many intervals you do and how hard you go on those intervals. Is when you're racing, when you have to respond to other attacks and so on, that kind of, you have to respond to the attacks when they happen, rather than having a squared in program. You got a certain amount of rest before you do the next interval and so on. So for this, it's going to be a bit of a test for Chris to see where he's at, and I have no doubt that he will be there or thereabouts, but like I said, I don't think he's going to be at his absolute top in this. But then again, with Chris Froome, you know, his lowest level is pretty high, so he'll probably still be able to compete with the best guys.
I think he most certainly will. He certainly starts out here as out-and-out favourite, and when you know this is a field that includes, of course, the aforementioned support rider for him, Richie Porte, as defending champion of BNC. Last year, Chris Froome was sick in this race, came here knowing how important it is. It's almost the near-perfect time to bridge into the season, which is why it draws so many big names. Alberto Contador was here as well. Froome got sick, finished 71st last year, but as you know, he is able to bounce back from adversity, but he does look fit and ready for action, which is why he's remains the solid favourite. Tom Dumoulin, some of you are saying, didn't really mention him yesterday after doing such great work in the Vuelta. He's not in great shape, and in fact yesterday he shipped nearly 7 minutes. He's still in the race, unlike Rowan Dennis, who's decided that this, unfortunately, is not going to be for him. He's picked up flu, and sickness, I think, is also responsible for the exit of a number of others. Wilco Kelderman from Team Lotto Jumbo, so all eyes now on Robert Jesink, and maybe Primož Roglic of Slovenia, who could go well. And Chris Bokermans is also out, also sick. Ethics Quickstep flying a black flag today, for obvious reasons. I'm sure you all know the terrorist incident that's gone on in Belgium today, in Brussels in particular, at the airport and the railway station, and the Belgian Prime Minister declaring that this security situation has not gone away with the incidents, and they're fearful of yet more attacks. So it's a weighty atmosphere, I think, is it's fair to say, that's hanging over today's race. I can't believe that they're going to spray champagne around at the end of it. Yes, I don't think anyone's minded to overly celebrate, although it will be a relief to anyone who comes home today. Nacer Bouhanni has the biggest responsibility. He wears the leader's jersey, and in case you were wondering, it's white with some green stripes on it. It's a highly traditional jersey that probably looked great before the world of advertising got involved and sort of messed up the visuals a bit. It's almost indefinable.
Yeah, it is quite difficult to pick out in the bunch that particular jersey, but you know, it's a tradition down here in Volta Catalunya to have this particular jersey, so they're sticking with it, and you know, you got to take your hat off and respect that.
Yeah, if I had a hat, it would be off now. 51 kilometres to go. It's all about the finale today, but there is an approach that is going to scare the pants off some. 17 kilometres out, we suddenly engage in a climb, and it's quite a testy one. 2.1 kilometres, 4.5%, 7% maximum, and they'll be going at a fair old lick at that point, because with 17 kilometres to go, if the brake has been caught, and we suspect it will be, as you can see, they're not that, well, on this sort of highway, they're within sight of the chasers as we stand. Yeah, it's about reassembling yourselves, and when you have to do that on a climb, it will sap a few legs. Now, Nacer Bouhanni is known as a decent climber. In fact, he's skipped up quite a few mountains in his time, and of the fast men, I think he's the most capable. The question is, will the likes of Impey and Gerrans manage to get back at him? And of course, yesterday Ben Swift looked very, very strong, and Vasyl Kirienka did a super job for him, although Ben really did have to do things all on his own towards the end. Not the ultimate lead out. Some cushioning offered up to him. But how do you see, who do you see the major threats to Bouhanni? You're looking at Impey and Gerrans as well, I take it. Do you think they might switch roles today?
Well, I think this is a very good sprint for Simon Gerrans. It's also a very good sprint for Ben Swift and for Gasparotto. Probably more so those riders than for Nacer Bouhanni. Bouhanni, you know, although he climbed well in Milan-San Remo, obviously, to get over the Cipressa and the Poggio, he's probably, in my book anyway, one of the least good climbers out of the sprinter lot, although he's worked very hard on his climbing ability. But against someone like Ben Swift, and certainly Gasparotto goes very well on the shorter, steeper ramps, and still has to kick when he gets to the top, and that's going to be the key today for this finish, is to actually get yourself up the ramp and then when it levels out, have something left to go with again. And I think that's where Bouhanni's potentially going to fall a bit short. But it is a new Nacer Bouhanni that we are seeing, so that's, yeah, it's up to proof now, really, as to how good he's going to be on these sort of more difficult finishes.
50 kilometres to go. You saw Cameron Meyer a few moments ago. He's wearing the King of the Mountains jersey. He's just lost that to a certain Mr. Dron. And he's in the breakaway. He was only trailing by a solitary point in the King of the Mountains competition. After being in the break yesterday, he's now got the jersey. Well, just waiting to catch up with some of the interviews that we made at the top of the day. Maxime Bouet is one of those, talking about, I presume, what they're going to do for Gianni Meersman today. Now, he was dropped yesterday on stage 1, so he's absolutely no threat, which means if he does roll off the front of the peloton, there might be just a split second where everyone thinks he's not really that much of a threat. Let him go. They might change their minds, but split seconds decisions count. Let's speak to Maxime Bouet.
Et hier, ça a été un petit peu trop dur pour Gianni. Il a pas réussi malheureusement à passer les bosses.
For today's stage, yesterday it was a bit too hard for Gianni Meersman. He wasn't able to do it in the climb, but today I think it'll be okay. And then for the rest of the week, it's all for Dan Martin. And we'll see if we can get into an escape. Last year, we remember that there were some escapes that made it. In this kind of race, there are some opportunity to get into the escape because all the leaders start watching each other and they're wanting to control the race. And so it can open up an opportunity for some to take advantage, and that's what Dan Martin is going to hope to do. One man who will be part of the lead-out for Meersman today is Julian Alaphilippe. Now, he's been out with mononucleosis. For that, you can read glandular fever last year. But after a spectacular series of results, it's great to see him back, because I think he's the sort of great sleeper almost of French cycling. And take him lightly at your peril. I think we can expect a lot from Alaphilippe, but it's still very much, apparently, according to his team, a recovery process that's going on at the moment.
Yeah, when you end up with an illness like that, it can take anything up to 2 years to get yourself back on your sort of previous form, if you actually make it back to that. It all depends on how early he effectively started resting and started trying to get his body back on track again. And I just hope that he finds his legs, finds his form again, because he's a very exciting rider when he is in good shape. So. Amazingly so.
Runner-up to Valverde in both the Liège-Bastogne-Liège and the Flèche Wallonne last year. Everyone just went, wow, at that point. And then, of course, it all went very, very wrong when he got himself sick. Second in the Tour of California last year. We remind you, behind Peter Sagan. All the talk then was of Peter Sagan because, of course, he'd finally won an event and, of course, went on to become world champion. So a good year for Sagan and a year that really went very sour for Alaphilippe. Well, he's going to be leading out Meersman today, along with Peter Vakoc of the Czech Republic, all part of Ethics Quickstep. And, of course, they've got a man in the break, and it is Maxime Bouet. So it's rather lucky that we chatted to him. Maybe he was spurred on by the fact that there was a Eurosport mic pointed at him. 47 kilometres remaining. A gap reasonably solid, but the speed today is a slow one. It's got that transition feel, hasn't it?
Yeah, it does, but it's hard on these kind of roads, because although it looks flat, it never really is 100% flat out here, and it's quite heavy roads as well. When I rode for Garmin Slipstream, then we spent a lot of time down in this part of the world. They're based in Girona, so I ended up going out training on these particular roads for quite a lot of the time, and they're very, very sticky roads that you don't really get anything for free from them. So, and that's why I think we're seeing the speed being relatively slow. There's only 4 riders in the breakaway as well, so doing a full 178 kilometers in the breakaways is a big ask for anyone, and certainly when you're a small number of riders like this. So I think the guys in the peloton, though, will find it quite nice that all of a sudden the chase has kind of been yeah, taken out of the bunch, and they're sort of able to ride a little bit slower for a while.
Well, they're going to need to keep some energy because La Molina beckons tomorrow. We've got 4 categorised climbs, 4 categorised 1 climbs there. Then we get on to the big day, the Port Aine, with 2 special climbs and yet again an uphill finish. Val's is the big sort of breakaway day where we're expecting the likes of Dan Martin to function very well. Philippe Gilbert, you never know, may well be called into action. Don't be surprised there.
Dan Martin has actually gone quite well up La Molina before as well, so Dan targets this race as he lives in Girona, so it's his home race, his home training roads, and it's very important to him to do well here. So I have very little doubt that we're going to see Dan Martin certainly at the very pointy end of the race. Winning it is always difficult, but if you go back and have a look at what Dan Martin has done over the last number of years in this race, he's always been there or thereabouts.
So expect him to go well, and great support team as well. And if Julien Alaphilippe is in support mode as well as rebuilding mode, that all bodes well to give Dan Martin an extra impetus. Yeah, a couple of breakaway days, stages 5 and 6, before we head to Barcelona, where we have those rather spiteful almost 3 climbs, 8 climbs I should say, category 3 right at the very end around the city itself. Beautiful city that it is. Sky just coming up to the fore, and you can see as well that Tinkoff and Alberto Contador are rolling alongside. There's a great deal of respect and indeed friendship, would you believe, a sort of band of brothers thing, I guess, going on between Alberto Contador and Chris Froome. They're extremely friendly with each other. They have a great deal of admiration for each other. But believe me, when it comes to racing, it can get a bit tetchy between the pair of them. I remember them both essentially staring themselves into the abyss. Froome didn't want to do the work for Contador. Contador didn't want to get mugged by Froome, and they neutralised each other. And we've just heard that from Maxime Bouet in the interview, that sometimes the big names get it wrong because their focus on each other allows others to take a step forward.
Yeah, that tends to happen quite often, and certainly on the mountain stages where the big guys end up looking at each other, don't really know how well they're going, and certainly at this time of the year, no one is 100% sure how well they actually are going compared to the other guy, and it sort of tends to be slightly more cagey racing going on, and no one really does anything until the very last moment, if at all. So yeah, I think there is an opportunity to play the big guns against each other, but you know, you're going to have to get yourself there as well, and put some form of tactics in place to actually challenge the big guys to do, you know, to actually start looking at each other.
Wanty have gone for red bar tape, and it's gone down very well with some of you. Dave Doyle says, love the fluoro red matching tape, bars and stem of the Wanty Group Gobert machine. Well, I guess it possibly gives him a reminder of the red King of the Mountains jersey competition, which Boris Dron had to go for. I think the engineers probably put that on there and say, look, you are really the King of the Mountains, get out there and get some points. And that's exactly what he did. So, job well done. He'll be in red tonight. Big names drawn to each other. Quintana just drifting up alongside Alberto Contador and just saying, hello, welcome back to the office. Quintana's also had a late start to the season. He's targeting a win here. He actually said it himself. He's a bit of an open book, the man who won the Giro d'Italia with such prowess, of course. So we'll see whether Nero can do the job. I think he can. Whether he will or not is anyone's guess, because he's got to get the beating of both Alberto Contador and Chris Froome. How important, Magnus, is getting the first little notch on the sword, if you like, against big name opposition, even for the big names?
Well, it's definitely an important one, but you know, it's still a long way off to the big targets for these guys. The Tour de France is in July, so there's still plenty of time, but it's always good to get that tester and see where you stand in an early part of the season, and see whether do I need to step up my game, or are we on target? How are we faring against the rest of the guys?
We've got We got Richie Port. Spoke to him earlier on today. Defending champion.
I feel good. You know, it's next few days are kind of hard. I think today is a hard stage too. So, and just looking forward to hitting the mountains.
You just got out of a Paris-Nice where you were third, really good result. What's the goal here? There is a really big lineup.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's a great lineup, but the goal here is to obviously finish as high on GC as I can.
You just lost one, Dennis. Will be hard for the rest of the week for you.
Yeah, for sure. I think today also is hard, but the next two stages are super hard.
There we are. Today is indeed tough. They're all designed to be, of course. This is a proper race, Magnus, where no thoughts of a prologue and time trials have been put to one side entirely. Racing right from the very off, and many of them actually appreciate it, to be honest.
Well, so, some of the guys do, but I always prefer a stage race to have at least one time trial in it. But you know, when you're doing the shorter shorter races like this, I mean, it's a full 7 days, but it's still a relatively short stage race. Then sometimes it can be a bit difficult to sort of fit a time trial into the mix of things. And I know in the past, we're talking some years ago now, they used to run double stages where you had a road race in the morning and a time trial in the afternoon. And in fact, 3 days of the Panna, they still do that on the final stage. But it's not much liked by the riders.
Just looking at Martin Elmiger, I think it was, having a chat with Alberto Contador. And Bertie, as he's known locally, just, yeah, a little bit of showboating, play acting. He seems inordinately relaxed for a man in his final season, doesn't he?
Well, I think he's so used to doing what he does now on the bike, and he knows he's going well. So he's quite a relaxed character and always has been, I think. And I don't think anything needs to change just because he said it's his final year at the top level. We haven't seen that he's actually retired yet either. Who knows what's going to happen at the end of the year? But the indications are certainly going in that direction. And I think he's just focused on the job at hand and having as much fun as he can on the bike and enjoying being out with his teammates and enjoying racing and then taking the results, obviously going for the win as often as he can, but not panicking about it.
It's interesting that Spanish cycling has been criticised of late for not having the same development program as nations such as France, who've given us, of course, a lot of great new young talent over the last couple of years that sprung forward. But Contador is setting up his own youth team and his own youth development, and I know that's something that's close to your heart as well, Magnus.
Yeah.
Just bringing on the next generation. Do you think Alberto his efforts are going to be enough to save Spain from heading to a generation of lack of success? It all seems a bit late, to be honest. Who's coming through in Spain?
Well, on any given weekend in Spain in the age category 15, 16 and juniors, you'll find they can't actually cope with the amount of riders that they have. So you have to qualify to go to the bigger races. You have to qualify in the regional races and the local races. So effectively you can have as many as 700 kids riding a bike on the weekend. So there's enough bike riders still doing what they do. What is lacking a bit in Spain is the program to take them.
The elite development, basically.
The elite development, taking them and having performance plans where effectively the federation look after the best of the riders and taking them around Europe and giving them some hard races as well, and really nurturing the talent that they have in Spain, because there is an awful lot of it. And of course, Spain is struggling with financially still. There isn't an awful lot of money. I mean, Movistar being the one team now in Spain, and for such a big cycling nation, that is nowhere near enough. I mean, if we go only a couple of years back, there was at least 3, if not 4 teams at the highest level, and a whole bunch of teams in the second tier as well. So right now, what Spain needs is just is the money to be able to invest and spend on cyclists.
Fernando Alonso thought about wading in, putting some money in, getting his own team. That came to naught. Of course, you know, Euskadi gone. It's been a tough time for cycling in Spain, and it may well be reflected in a period where the results, the stars like Joaquin Rodriguez, like Alberto Contador, just kind of drift a little bit. And we'll see. Banyoles, absolutely beautiful. There's a big lake here, as you can see. The sound of applause at night is people slapping the back of their necks because of the mosquitoes. 39 kilometres to go. We have an intermediate sprint coming up for you right now, and there are bonus seconds, and we appreciate that within this particular race. 3, 2 and 1 at the intermediate sprint, and indeed 10, 6 and 4 at the line, which is why Nasser Bouhanni, not just positionally, but of course has his bonuses as well, his bonus seconds. So he leads Swift by 4 seconds, Swift having picked up 4 bonus seconds yesterday for finishing second at the end of the day. There'll be more bonuses up for grabs today, and you never know, Bouhanni may carry his advantage quite deep into the climb towards Molina tomorrow. Just waiting for this intermediate sprint at the moment. This is countdown time. It comes at 38 kilometres to go, so if that tick is right, it's any moment now, and this is going to get a bit lively. Don't expect that our man from Wanty will contest it, so Boris Dron will probably let the other boys have those seconds. Here we go. Well, we're waiting for that intermediate sprint and the bonus seconds and points therein. There is an intermediate sprint's jersey. It's kind of white, but then again, most of the jerseys are kind of white. They're winding themselves up for it right now, and Grajek of Vera Active Jet Pro has been left behind, as you can see. De Gent is the man who wants these bonus seconds, and why not? And that banner was it. He has taken it ahead of Maxime Bouet, so he gets 3 bonus seconds to add to his tally. And having started the day, Thomas De Gent, let's just double check on his disadvantage, 10 seconds down on Bouhanni. He's now a little bit closer, being 7 seconds down. Let's see if he manages to do anything else with the day. Last of the categorised intermediates today. We've had just one climb of Category 1, an early one of Category 3, which they took after just 26 kilometres. The second came with 70 to go of the 178 that we have today, and you can see clearly a change of pace. I think they've probably just about had enough of these guys. And which way will they take this particular planted roundabout? Both ways is the answer. Whereas there is a third way, the Maggie way, which is basically to bunny hop straight through the vegetation.
Well, I prefer it to be some form of concrete to ride on, but you know, needs must and all that.
I have asked you what was your highest bunny hop in the past. Can you remember?
It's a good 40 centimetres.
There we are. Did you gain much?
Yeah, a little bit.
Was it worth it?
Yeah.
Were you singing alto that night?
No, I wasn't actually. We. I'll tell you the story sometime.
Can be a bit rough. We'll take ourselves a commercial break, and we'll be back in just a few moments as we start to head for Olot, putting in a little bit of pace today. It's their gap to close down if they want to tee up Bouhanni. And no surprise that the peloton are leaning on them, or at least saying to them, come on, do a bit of work, because frankly yesterday they didn't do very much at all. They really kept their powder dry, did they not?
Well, I think Cofidis rode an awful lot in the beginning yesterday, and then sort of backed out of it and really just let the other teams take over. But you know, they had to look after Bouhanni up the climbs and make sure that he was there, otherwise it was pointless in them actually putting any pressure on the front of the peloton. And clearly Team Sky with Ben Swift in there, they were quite keen to make it a bunch sprint to see whether they could get Swifty to win it. As far as I'm concerned, if Sky wanted to do something like that, they needed to put a lot more and put effectively Ben Swift almost on the limit of what he was capable of doing uphill, and with that get rid of Nasser Bouhanni. But you know, it didn't happen. So today, still a difficult finish, I think, for Bouhanni, but you know, Cofidis have got sort of have the responsibility of the jersey, and you got to respect the jersey, and with that it means that you are setting the pace regardless of what happens on the front for a significant part of the race at least.
It'll be interesting to see how the downhill run to the line. It's very gentle. It's almost a false flat, but it's still 2%, so it's going to give some a lively accent to some of the legs. Now, Simon Gerrans prefers a bit of an uphill sprint. Darrell Impey was going well yesterday, but I still think it may well be Gero that gets his chance today. I think one to watch is Alexei Chatovic of Team Katusha. He's really shaken a few up. He goes very, very well on occasion, and he's one of those that's a little bit off the radar. Yesterday, he didn't get the greatest lead in because he doesn't have a proper lead-out train to help him out. So he's hoboing on other people's trains, a bit like Ben Swift is at the absolute cutting edge. All right, good, nice lead-in and nice protection with Nicholas Roach softening him up and Vasil Kirienka as well. But an out-and-out lead-out Ben Swift does not have, so he's going to be going solo. So will Chatovic, and so will a number of others. It's a luxury almost having a lead-out train, which of course Bouhanni has.
Yeah, it is definitely a luxury, but I think with this particular finish, the way the final kilometre and a bit is, it's going to be more a question of who's got the legs to follow the attacks that are going to come up that climb and still have something left in the tank at the top. Some may say that this would actually be a perfect setup for Philippe Gilbert, Simon Gerrans to effectively go a bit early, attack on that particular climb, and try and distance the sprinters and see what's left after that. But you know, Darrell Impey doesn't climb bad at all. Ben Swift goes uphill very, very well, and probably my outside bet for today, Enrico Gasparotto as well. Certainly very classy going up those tougher climbs and then sprinting.
Vavajka yesterday was part of the breakaway and picked up a number of bonus seconds, which sees him in a happy place overall at the moment. But the chances for the breakaway boys to make a difference with the seconds they pick up in the intermediate sprints sort of ebbing at the moment. Gasparotto was fourth home yesterday ahead of Chatovic, who finished fifth. Jordi Simon as well. He's from Vera Active Jet. Now, I don't know a great deal about Jordi Simon, but he's been around for quite a while. He's local, he's Spanish, 25 years of age, and he went well in the Castille y Leon a couple of years ago. But seventh place yesterday in this kind of company, that's not bad at all, and I wouldn't be surprised to see that basically the top 10 are more or less pretty similar today.
Yeah, I think you're right. Those are the fast men that out of this particular race in this year's edition. So no doubt we're going to see a large part of them up there again. It's a question of, you know, are we going to see the same man on the top step, or is it going to be a bit of a shuffle around?
Yeah, we'll wait and see. Just looking through and seeing where Gianni Meersman finished yesterday, he kind of got disengaged. In fact, I believe he was one of those that was actually dropped yesterday on the climb, and that's wounding for someone like Meersman, who was expected to go well. He may be trying to make amends today for Etixx Quickstep. That's certainly what Maxime Bouet was saying. Yeah,
and I think Meersman, he should have been there yesterday. I don't know what's happened, and there may have been a crash on the descent that we haven't seen. For someone like Ryder Heyshidal, for instance, to get left behind on this type of a stage is kind of signaling to me that something went on the climb or on the descent that left a large number of riders behind with you know, a gap of almost 7 minutes. So we'll have to wait and see what's happened to Meersman and if he's in good shape or not.
Just looking a few moments ago as BMC just to get themselves to the pointy end. They do like safety first strategy, BMC, and Philippe Gilbert may have an option today because of the technical nature of the run-in. It does actually get less so the closer we get to the line. In fact, the final big right-hand turn is at about 1,300 meters to go, Again, it does pitch a little bit, but the road is reasonably straight, and it does descend towards the line, so maybe it will draw out an early response. We'll see. There's certainly a pickup of pace, that's for sure. We were averaging around 37 kilometers an hour, and look at that. This motorcycle is touching 58 and 59 more. Well, this is not just because the terrain is pitching downhill. There is a sense of urgency now. It's been lit up in terms of the chase, and these guys still clearly believe they've got something. Only 50 seconds is all they have in their back pocket at the moment, and frankly, I don't think it's going to be enough. But you know, stranger things indeed have happened out there. Just looking at Verwijk, who's wearing the points jersey. He also leads the youth competition, by the way. The red jersey is on the back of Cam Meyer after taking it almost by accident. He said it wasn't by design that he actually got that, but nonetheless, it belongs to him for the time being. Cameron Meyer from Dimension Data wearing the red King of the Mountains jersey. It's about the leader's jersey, though, and that's on the back of Nasser Bouhanni, who's very well installed with his teammates. Some of the lesser leading lights in terms of lead out, doing some proper work. Nicholas Ede, Roman Aldi, Rudy Mollard, but it will be Bozic, who was dropped yesterday, actually, and Jeffrey Soup, who did a super job, no pun intended, yesterday. 30 kilometres to go, Magnus. I think it's time for you to nail your choices to the mast today.
Well,
Bouhanni again, and...
No, I'm actually going for Ben Swift today.
Yeah, I think that's probably a very good call, to be honest.
Although he will be challenged.
He will, but he knows what he's got to do, and he's got a little bit of a downhill ramp, and I think it will be a bit more of a free-for-all. Yesterday we had a split. There was a few more tired legs than I think we're going to have today, and I think the pace that we're seeing right now suggests that there's a lot of power left in the peloton, and it's going to be a swift run in this one.
Yeah, it certainly will be a fast run into to the final kilometre or so, and then we got that climb up. It's going to be a tough finish, but I think... you know, my top three for today is probably going to be Ben Swift, Simon Gerrans, and then Enrico Gasparotto.
Ian from Cycling Betting says a lot of riders had problems getting to Girona with train and plane issues, and Meersman spent the day prior at the airport, so he wasn't in a happy place yesterday, and that kind of knock to your prep has a big impact, doesn't it? It may well have accounted for him yesterday.
It can have an impact, but then again, you know, a day off the bike, yeah, you feel a bit rough the first hour or so on when you start a race, and then all of a sudden you kind of get your legs going, and it would have probably been wise for Gianni Meersman at that point to have gone out on the bike a bit early in the morning and done another half hour or so to just get his legs turning over. If he did in fact spend the whole day in the airport, then yeah, I don't think he would have left a big enough dent for him to miss that front group by just having effectively two legs that are too well rested.
I'm going to go just a little bit of a side bet today. Alexei Chatovic, Katusha look well up for this, and they're in marking mode. There they are with the big sort of, well, it looks like HC, to be honest, or category. I think they've done that deliberately, but it's actually a K for Katusha. But there we are. So, yeah, watch those guys, and likewise, don't be too sniffy if Cannondale sends somebody up the road, and maybe even Rigoberto Urán himself. When the camera came down here and we saw him, it kind of made me feel sorry for him, quite frankly, because he's been largely ignored and as being he's been relegated from the sort of top tier of contenders for a race like this. And you take Rigoberto Urán lightly at your peril, and we've got one of the Cairo Royale boys, I think, has decided that he's going to inject a little bit of pace. Just been missed off the left-hand side of your screen. It may well be he's heading off to say hello to somebody. No response just for the time being. Lotte Soudal also here, and indeed the loneliness of the long-distance breakaway, I think, is what we're dealing with right now. Lotte Soudal, and of course Thomas de Gendt. Now, he did this and shot straight up the Stelvio. I was actually there, and it was freezing cold. And when he got to the top, Belgian television thought that I was personally interviewing him, and they ripped off the back door of the commentary position while I'm still on air, and screamed at me, where the hell is Thomas de Gendt? Because they wanted to interview him. It was like, you know, to hell with your with your programming. We demand to know where our hero is. I think the passions came to the fore. I never held it against Thomas de Gendt, but the gentleman who I can only refer to as Ronald McDonald, because that's the way he looked to me, was not my mate. I can tell you that much for quite some time, but there we are. Pressure can tell, but he can sustain it, Thomas de Gendt, can't he?
Well, he's certainly a strong rider, and although he's had a couple of bit tougher years since that point.
Been quiet,
I think,
hasn't he?
Yeah, I think that particular Stelvio stage, you know, he ended up playing the circumstances in a very good way and to his favour, and all credit to him for doing that. But with that, there came an awful lot of pressure that now all of a sudden he needed to be on the podium in Grand Tours left, right, and centre. And I think that's slightly above what he was capable of doing on a certainly on a regular basis. So, but when it comes to this type of riding, he's certainly a very, very strong rider, and a gutsy one at that.
Yeah. Well, he's proving that today. He's heading past the aggregate grinders, and he is hard as stone, and he's got to grind this one out. See what I did there? 26 kilometres to go, and de Gendt is there. He's 29 now, so he's no spring chicken. Couple of stages in the Paris-Nice. A stage in that Giro 2012, that was the Stelvio, where he went on to finish third, by the way. So he got himself a podium in a Grand Tour. No mean feat at all. And he's gone well in this race previously. In fact, he won into Barcelona. You know, those testy little spiteful climbs that we're going to be dealing with. He's taken that stage 2 years ago. So, yeah, you know, he likes it here, and he's good at this time of year. He's good at this time of the year, and excuse me. You know, the Belgian Classics are coming up, and he's certainly part of a team of riders that can do them very well. Certainly the well, Tour of Flanders and then the second part of the Spring Classics is probably where he's at his best, but it means that he has to be going well at this time of the year, and he's a man who can do the, should we call him, certainly the shorter, steeper climbs very well, but he does also handle himself okay going up the bigger mountains. Thank you. I was just about to say, interesting as Thomas de Gendt is, it'd be nice to see how the pack are sorting themselves out. And there is Nacer Bouhanni with his rather indistinct, in my opinion anyway, leader's jersey. It's supposed to be white with green hoops, and he's you can't really see the green hoops because these days they allow corporate advertising to, I think, affect negatively the look of some of the older jerseys. The classic old woolen ones looked absolutely fabulous. Of course, you could never wash them, otherwise
too much stitching there to get the logo on.
Just became massive. Yeah, there was ladies with needle and thread trying to put the sponsor's name on. Those things very much a thing of the past. But look who's massing here. BMC are looking handy. So are Orica Green Edge. They're going to have an option. Movistar yesterday went well. They've got a lead, or at least some options to preserve. And of course, if you're looking after your big names, then today is a day where you really want to keep safe and don't want to throw it away for no good reason. 25 kilometres to go as we stand right now. Tinkoff looking reasonably busy. They have got Matteo Tossato if they want to have a little push, but in the sprint company he'll sort of be bizarrely sort of out of place, I think, if he suddenly finds himself up there. Bouhanni, Swift, Impey, Gasparotto yesterday from Wanty had a good run. I thought he had got on the podium, but indeed he missed out by the narrowest of margins, and Daryl Impey, the South African it was for Orica Green Edge, that took that spot. Satovic, my choice for today for Katusha, finishing in 5th place. Yeah, I know it's going to be Bouhanni, but or Ben Swift, but you know, Swift and Bouhanni have kind of gone. We struck out Bouhanni, and my mate Magnus here has nabbed Ben Swift, so what can I do? I'm looking further down the order. Actually, I think Kevin Retzer might go well. Yesterday he was on sort of nursing duty, apparently, for Lorenzo Manzin. And Manzin said, you go for it. And he did. And he finished in 8th place, Retzer. But don't be surprised if he pops up a little bit further ahead today. Here's Nasser, resplendent in his leader's jersey. It is undefinable, isn't it?
Yeah, it's not an awful lot of green on that white jersey. It's probably more red now since they slapped the logo on there.
Well, exactly. Why don't they just have the leader's watch strap? You know, it's about the same. Not a great deal more colour out there, I'm afraid. Lamprey and David Kimolai, what about him today?
Yeah, why not? It's certainly something that should suit the Lamprey riders better today with the ramp from 1,200 meters up. I still think, though, that they're going to find it difficult to match the real fast men and strong guys in today's race. And I still have this feeling that although Philippe Gilbert has not been, you know, on super form lately, this is too much of an opportunity for him to just sit and watch it happen.
Felix Grosschartner. There we are. I know he's on your radar. He's only 22 years of age, and as a youth rider, he's brilliant. And CCC Sprandi in their Tangerine. I guess some of the older fans might think it's a Oskar team, but no, it's the Polish crew. They want this Austrian to get himself up towards the 4, and they're going to work for him. Gaetian Beiler as well, or Bille, could also be there for Wanty Group Gobert. But what about Sprandi? David Rebellin, he's one of those characters that always causes a frown for obvious reasons. But, you know, he was also going reasonably well in this race.
Yeah, I think David Rebellin is he's never to be discounted in any sort of hilly or mountainous bike race. So no doubt we're going to see him. But
how old is he now? 47?
No, 44. I think he's turning, if I'm not mistaken completely.
I'm aging him.
But I think Grosschartner is one of the guys that they are looking at for the mountain stages. Today's definitely not his type of finish. He's a pure climber, and with that, I think he's going to, when we're heading up towards Molina.
Well, on the Tour of Croatia, and you think, oh, Tour of Croatia. Well, believe me, it's a proper race. Maciej Peterski took a run into Zagreb after 177 kilometres. That's 1 kilometre less than today. It had a Category 1 climb right in the middle of it and a finish pretty much like today. And Felix Grosschartner finished that sprint in 2nd place behind Peterski. And apparently he was pretty good for that. So he can go when he wants. It was part of a breakaway, I'll give you that.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, who knows? Day like today, you never can tell. Magnus, I don't like the clouds.
No, I don't like the clouds either.
What's happening? It's getting miserable. All of a sudden, we have a cloud rolling in. Chance of rain today apparently 0, but that looks like chance of rain tonight probably 100%. We'll take a break. The commitment from Thomas de Gent is ebbing ever so slightly, and no surprise there. He's had a busy old day, of which there are 20 kilometres left. There is a chase on as we speak, and frankly, it's being led by Cofidis. And it has to be, because they don't like getting bullied, and every time they knock the pace back, everyone else says, well, if you want Buani to win it and keep hold of the leader's jersey, you're going to have to do some work. So they do. We've even seen Buani on the front doing a bit of pacing, but now he's back in the pack, keeping himself out of the wind and ready to rock and roll.
When you say on the front, it was still about three riders back in his lineup from his team. But yeah, he was close to the front.
Well, he descended to the front momentarily, but not for long.
No, but yeah, Cofidis is definitely doing all the work here at the moment. And it's interesting to see that all of the big teams are now starting to line themselves up and effectively waiting to catch Thomas again. I'd be surprised if we don't see a couple of counter-attacks going from here.
One thing that Thomas de Gendt has got going for him is that he's about to engage in a climb. In about 2 kilometres time, they're going to come off this highway, and then the road pitches up. 2.1 kilometres, between 4 and 7%. No laughing matter, especially if you're a sprinter. Bouhanni can climb. There are other quick men who can do the same, so it's a bit of a roller, this one. I don't think it's the kind of day for somebody like Philippe Gilbert to roll the dice. Not this day. But anyone else going to be tempted to go long?
Yeah, I think that, well, going long, I think that there will definitely be a counter-attack on Thomas de Gendt here now, certainly with a springboard available to do so on. I'd be surprised if no one has a go. But, you know, you're talking about the finish, and there's certainly a big enough lump coming with round about a kilometre to go. You got a bit of a kick, and then with about 600 metres, there's another quite a significant ramp that will really put the pressure on a lot of the sprinters, and I think that is going to be the opportunity for someone like Gilbert, Simon Gerrans, and potentially a few other riders as well. Maybe one of the GC contenders decides to have a bit of a go on this one. Geraint Thomas, maybe that will certainly suit him perfectly well to have a go. We saw Nicolas Roche yesterday have a go. That would be a perfect kind of springboard for him to have another dig.
So, Paul Franchak from Vera Active Jet Pro Cycling, he and Jordi Simon fancy their chances today, which is why the man who appeared to wear the Polish flag, just getting himself to the left-hand side of the road. Cofidis busy as usual as they just disappear on an underpass, rather handily for us. And I think we may well just see popping out the other side Thomas de Gendt, who looks like he's frankly given up the push for the time being. He'll save himself for another day, one suspects. No pictures just for the time being of the pack, as they all of a sudden do indeed emerge, and it's almost a trident, as you can see. Centre of the road, left or right, plenty of space for them to play with. Sometimes plenty of space is not a great thing, because you're sort of tempted to move into voids where you suddenly find yourself in the wind. This man's been taking plenty of it, hasn't he?
He certainly has today. It's also difficult in the bunch there when you're sitting at this particular moment. 25 seconds is not an awful lot of time, and you don't really want to catch Thomas de Gendt just yet. I think Cofidis have ridden too hard for the last sort of well, 10 kilometers or so anyway. They could have backed off and left Thomas out there for a bit longer. But it's also now starting to be that positioning chase within the bunch, and you see teams lining themselves up with a full 8 riders, and it will effectively become a bit of a drag race at some point here now to take control of the peloton, to set themselves up as we turn off this main road and onto narrow roads. That's going to be a key point for every team to make sure that they're right near the front.
De Gendt can climb, and if they don't wind him in soon, he's going to be in one of those positions where he might just get out of sight on the approaches. It's not technical in terms of left and right, but it is in rises and falls. And when you transition from highways as well, some of the kicks that you actually get declared on your map generally tend to be loops, if you like, slip roads, that kind of thing. And we've got one coming up towards the very end. In fact, within the loop there are 3 roundabouts as well, which you have to take rather carefully, one of which is a switchback, so you only take a quarter of the roundabout, and that happens with about 1.3 meters to go. When you get to that point, you enter, if you like, if we were looking at a clock and 12 o'clock was north, then you're coming in at 2 o'clock in the afternoon and you're going out at 4 o'clock. So it's you're taking a quarter of the roundabout, let's put it that way. It's a left-hand turn, and not a very nice one, to be honest, coming so late. So we'll see how much of a squeeze point that is. David Kimmelai for Lampre. What support has he got? Well, plenty at the moment. Lampre, the men in the pink and blue, are doing a good job on his behalf. This is more open, I think, than perhaps many people think. And Nacer Bouhanni is going to have at least a few clipping at his heels. Whether they'll pass him or not is another matter.
There'll definitely be a hard-fought stage. That there's no doubt about that one. But like we said, it's not necessarily a sprinter stage, but depending on how Boani goes up the climbs, and if he can respond to attacks that will definitely come, then you know, he's putting himself in a very good position to win another stage here. So I think Cofidis are doing the right thing and doing all the work and trying to set things up. I mean, at the end of the day, what have they got to lose?
Indeed, I think that's what Vara Active Jet Pro Cycling are thinking. The red and white team downstairs as we look. I'm cycling with Jonas van Genekten. They've got Pantano and Martin Elmiger as well as decent lead-outs. I'm cycling do have some firepower. We'll see whether they manage to deliver it today. It could happen. Stranger things have indeed happened. And Thomas again has finally said, well, one strange thing that's not going to happen is me win today. He's decided that he's going to keep his powder dry for another day.
I think that's wise, but he's looking at the moment like he can't even back himself into the peloton.
He's having difficulty.
All the speed has gone out of the bunch, and
they put the brakes on in a minute. Yeah. There we are. So 15 kilometres to go. Thomas de Gent decides that discretion is the greater part of valour, and he's going to give up just for the time being. It was interesting just a few moments ago. You saw those pushing on at the front of the pack and freewheeling. They were dead centre and at the back. You do get a lot of protection when others are taking the wind. Right now it's Sprandi Polkovici then as well that's still thinking about Grobschartner. Don't think it's going to be him. Sylvester Schmidt? I don't know. 15 Ks to go. We're guessing, but basically we're flailing around trying to find somebody who's going to have the beating of Nasser Bouhanni. It might happen today. It might be Gero. It might be Impey. Might be Swifty. Or somebody else. This is the Saint-Jume tunnel, patron saint of tunnels, presumably. 15 kilometres to go. They'll emerge in a moment. I'm getting a very sort of death stare from Magnus at the moment after that one. It's sort of wait and see at the moment, Magnus. I'm waiting for this to blow up. It has been a bit of a funny day today, to be honest. Although, of course, not terribly amusing, I'm afraid, courtesy of the weight that's been hanging over the day because of what's going on in Belgium. And, of course, our thoughts, and indeed those of many of the riders, are with those people who've, the families of those who've lost their lives. Because Belgium is, after all, cycling central, and we are heading back there very, very soon. There's a lot of programming to come out of Belgium, and we hope that everyone stays safe. Yeah,
there's an awful lot of racing happening already tomorrow, I believe. The 3 in Harelbeke, and then got Gent-Wevelgem on Sunday, straight into 3 days of the Panne, then starting on Tuesday, and into Flanders straight after that. So yeah, there's a lot of racing happening up there, and fingers crossed everything works out well. Well,
there's been a huge knockback in pace, which is precisely what we didn't want right now. As you can see, they're all sort of looking at each other and thinking, well, there's nobody to catch. We may as well just jolly this one in and then let all hell break loose when we get closer to the line. Do you see Jonas van Genekten having a go today?
Why not? I think obviously on this big road it's difficult to ride away from anyone, hence why we haven't seen any attacks just yet. But you know, there's an awful lot of riders sitting there kind of ready to make their move, and I'd be surprised if we get the next 14 kilometers with everyone just riding next to each other like this.
Kyle Reinen for Trek Factory Racing is their chosen man. Ryder Ashdal had a lousy day yesterday. Yes, yeah, another cloud for him to deal with, I'm afraid. 6 minutes 53 down. No chance of a split today. And this is easy street for the guys back here, relatively speaking. Bernie Eisel from Dimension Data will be doing a lot of work dragging some poor souls from Dimension Data up into the mountains, which start tomorrow. La Molina is likely to be a more lively affair tomorrow, Magnus, because we're just rack full of descents and climbs.
Yeah, that's a tough day, and obviously a tough finish up to La Molina as well. So we're going to see the first of the real GC contenders giving it their go, and bit of a test tomorrow, I think. So
Yeah.
it's a key day for how the rest of this race is going to be ridden, and who's actually going well, and what team has got strong riders and riders on form as well to look after the GC man.
Very much so. Just saw Rigoberto Urán, and indeed not that far away from him, Dan Martin, who's looking reasonably relaxed today. He's not expected to perform today, but he may well be expected to do so tomorrow. I suggest Valls is maybe his terrain, but as we've been reminded, he went well in La Molina in the past. Pace just starts to jack up again, and no surprise there as Dimension Data get themselves into position. This will be for Cameron Meyer. In fact, there they are on the left-hand side of your screen, so right-hand side of the road. Mojave Kudis is a great engine room at moments such as this, but he's being protected just for the time being. I think it is Cam Meyer that will be their chosen son. We'll see. The bright orange of CCC Sprandi, they're looking as well to do something for Grobschartner, and there's a little bit of skirmishing for road position right now, and Rompot and Nick van der Leicke also up towards the fore, and just wants to keep tabs on Nasser Bouhanni and his men. You see the rather swarthy looking Jeffrey Soup with his beard and his dark glasses. I've actually seen him in restaurants at night wearing those spectacles. I'm actually wondering whether he's just got laser beams behind there, and yeah, apparently there are eyes in there. But he is a brute of a character, and there he is, just rolling to the fore right now, right-hand side of your screen, with that rather fetching beard of his. Nothing more luxurious in the peloton, I don't think, although not tempted to run barefoot through it. 12 kilometres to go, and still looking lively. Vera Active Jet. Now, they're going to break my heart and not deliver today. Franchak and Jordi Simon are their chosen ones, and I think they believe that this is their only chance in this race.
Well, you never know whether it's going to be the only chance, but it's certainly a good chance for them. And with that, they're going to take every opportunity that they have to try and set something up for the finish. But going back to Dan Martin, it was actually fourth on La Molina last year.
There we go. So Dan could be up for tomorrow. So expecting maybe to keep something in the bank. We'll find out fairly soon. 11 kilometres remaining. Kofid is still doing an awful lot of work. Haven't seen much of Nasser Bouhanni because he is wearing the leader's white and green jersey. It's not terribly distinctive, as we mentioned earlier on, but he is in there and he will go. This is the Mont Russ tunnel, because that's what it says. And it's nearly 2 kilometres in length. So time for Magnus to give us his paella recipe.
Yeah, my paella is not all that great, to be honest with you. I don't think you'd want that one.
Okay, I'll take a postil de nada recipe.
Yeah, okay then.
He's writing it down as we speak.
Yeah.
They knew this was going to happen. Altogether, nothing to see apart from the woodland and the Moss Ross tunnel. It has a little break within it to help with exhaust fume clearance. And what it's going to do is give us a little sight of what's happening. Oh dear.
Well, hopefully they don't come out on the other side.
All right. I'll start humming the birdie song if you go for it. They're about to re-emerge. And as you see, they're not exactly going hell for leather at the moment. This is about halfway, by the way, so we've got to do this all again in a few moments. There they are. And there they go. Edwin McCann on Twitter says, wouldn't it be brilliant for Belgium if one of their guys wins today? You know what, Edwin? Absolutely, it would be fantastic. I think that was partially what De Gent was up to. He just kind of wanted to get out there and just show the former Belgian champions epaulets to everybody, and no surprise there. Dan Martin today from way out, says Sam Weaver. Don't think so, Sam. He's thinking about the overall, and he's going to, I'm sure, go for it tomorrow at La Molina, where he's had some success in the past. But you know, stranger things have happened indeed. So the Moss Ross tunnel almost dealt with. Gave us a chance to say hello. Interesting to see a modest fish farm just right at the very end of this tunnel. apropos of nothing at all. 10 kilometres remaining then today. This viaduct. Oh, there's a motorbike. We'll see some riders in a few moments' time. This will get lively, Magnus, I promise you. So
thank you.
Try and keep yourself awake. And then we will get into what is going to be a feisty run-in. So let's describe some of the pitches, rises and falls of it then. They go up about 30 metres in about 100 metres, which is, well, 3%, isn't it? Near enough. Yeah, so there we are. That will crest with about 500 metres to go, and then it pitches down, and you've got the same kind of descent as you had incline. And here is everybody, out safely, I hope. There are, when you go into tunnels, there's always a Charlie, isn't there, who just decides to start whooping or singing a song just to keep everyone entertained. Was that you?
Yeah, no, that wasn't me. My singing is not all that great, but it's quite tricky when you're going into these tunnels, and maybe not these ones because they're likely to be lit, but certainly down in Italy when you're up in the mountains and you do tunnels, they tend to have nothing inside them whatsoever.
Right.
So
and
you
some
are
of them are
pitch black.
very long.
They are. And it's really difficult because you're sitting there with sun shining, sunglasses on, and all of a sudden you're riding into pitch black tunnels, so you can't actually see what's going on in front of you, and all you're waiting for is just that one big scrape of something and waiting to hit it.
There we are. So kids, make sure you're well lit, or you're carrying enough lumens with you. The fans, you can tell we're heading close to town. They've dispatched with their vehicles and they're waving everybody. A rather lovely sight. We wait. This is going to take quite some time at this sort of pace. When are they going to pick it up?
Yeah, it's been very quiet so far, but everyone is still holding themselves in position, making sure that they are somewhere in the bunch where they can get out quickly and start putting the pressure on. 8 kilometers to go. I'm thinking that the first couple of teams are soon going to start really taking charge of this, and with that we got Team Sky coming up there as well with Mr. Kirienko. Usually gets to do about a good 5-6 kilometers on his own on the front.
A little bit of suffrage going on, as you can see it, further behind, and in fact Darrell Impey was looking like he was struggling just a bit on this incline. This is the worst of it, by the way, that they're dealing with right now, and in fact it is a highway, as you can see, so plenty of options, but they're looking very breathy, apart from Kirienko, who really does look like a robot. I mean that in the best possible sense. He has amazing core strength. You look at the way everyone else's shoulders are rocking and rolling, he's absolutely lock solid. All the power is being driven through the back end. But you have to counterbalance every one of the strokes, essentially, to keep that level of stability, and he does it brilliantly.
Yeah, he does have an amazing sort of strong position on the bike, and you know, I've always been amazed by this guy, how much work he does on the front for the teams that he rides for. And I remember at Paris a couple of years ago, he basically spent the last 30 kilometers on the front, and I think it may have been for Richie Port back then, that he was lending his services to, but it was, or maybe even been Bradley Wiggins, but certainly an amazing rider, and such a good teammate to have, because you know, if one of the other teammates has a bad day, then he'll just take that extra turn as well to sort of make up for it.
The pictures today have looked a bit gravelly. I can only apologise on behalf of the local broadcasters, but it's not exactly getting to you in HD, I wouldn't have thought today. But all I can ask for is your sympathy, and hope you can send some back to us as well. 7 kilometres to go. I think there's been some breakdown issues as well from the transponder of the motorcycle that's been covering the pack, which means we've seen a lot of the break and not much of the boys. But then again, not much is happening right now. At this pace, there's going to be a lot of legs with a lot of energy left in them by the time we get home.
You're definitely right there, Carlton. It's an interesting one, this. I'm not seeing it this calm and quiet with 7 kilometres to go for a long time, although it's slightly uphill all the time. But, you know,
Well, I was just looking at I Am Cycling. They've switched sides of the road. They're now over at the right-hand side with BMC. The men in red, possibly working for Philippe Gilbert. He might fancy this sort of company, especially with a downhill run. And here's CCC Sprandi Polkovici out towards the front as well, looking after Grobschartner today, and maybe Rebellin as well, just keeping him safe as far as the overall is concerned. The veteran, we'll see. Despite the breadth of the highway, they're so compact that there's actually not much room to play with.
No, there's not. With the wide roads, it obviously gives everyone an opportunity to move up on the sides, and that kind of gives this big washing machine type of movement where riders are moving up on the side and then getting themselves relatively near the front and trying to get in onto a wheel and then starting to drift back in the bunch again. It's only the bigger teams here now who really decided that we are going to sit on the front. We are going to hold this, hold our riders up near the front. And question is, at what point are they really going to start picking this up?
If everyone tries to stay safe by being at the front is not very safe. 6 kilometres to go. It's I don't think it's really going to open up until we get to about 3 out, because we've got this long loop that we take that brings us to the Flamme Rouge. Let's try and describe it for you then. You'll come in at 5 o'clock. You'll go, ignoring the roundabouts therein, and you take a 90-degree left-hander. Then you take a very, very sharp, very acute angle that sweeps you onto a series of rolling bends, which kind of flatten out with about 2 kilometres to go, I beg your pardon. So there we are. You come into town, do a loop, and then head down towards our finish. I think I may have reversed the map, but anyway, there's going to be a tailwind, that's for sure, and it's downhill. It's going to be fast. So coming in from the try again.
Here we go.
Coming in from the east and then ending up south, courtesy of a clockwise loop. I think that's just about it. 5 kilometres to go then. Sky on the front. This is for Swift, and as soon as this sort of pace starts to be injected, then things start to happen. And one thing that is happening right now is that Cofidis are not in the best place. No, they're not. Will it open up for them? They've got time to make amends. Yet again, Movistar doing a great deal of work.
Yeah, but Cofidis are down the left-hand side, about sort of 20-25 riders back with Boani on their wheels, so they're still in a good position. They've still got space to move up, but with 5 kilometres to go, this descent has provided an opportunity now for the teams on the front to really start lighting it up and driving it on.
And look at Cofidis, this mobbing the front. Clever stuff. They come up on the left-hand side and then drift over as a line to hold back those around them and give themselves some road space to play with. Team Lotto Jumbo also very much engaged. The motorcyclists decided to get out of there with 4 kilometres to go, and Sky just inject a little bit of pace. You can see Tinkoff also just trying to find some room. This is to keep their principal rider, Alberto Contador, safe as well. Chris Froome up towards the front. Oh, we've got a man as well who's just been trimmed out of this. Not good news at all, and it's Pantano as well, and he's looking, beg your pardon, it's Trek, it's Arredondo. Now that's not great news for him or his team. Don't want to dwell on this too much, because with 4 kilometres to go, all hell is starting to break loose up front. It's too late for him, I'm afraid, but not for everybody else. And look at the pace that's engaged right now. Orica Green Edge, the white, green and blue just coming up on the right-hand side of the road. You can see them there. Dimension Data also being drawn into the fray in their black and white. A lot of vision being taken by Cameron Meyer from Dimension Data. He's in good company here right now. Everyone wants to get a look and see what's happening. Nicholas Arndt's boys, Team Giant, also here, but Orica have got 2 options to play. Darrell Impey, Simon Gerrans with 3Ks to go.
3K to go, and we got Team Sky up here. Nicholas Roach on the front, Geraint Thomas on the wheel of them as well, to still trying to hide a little bit and just not use too much energy. But Movistar clearly got the measure of this one so far with Nairo Quintana on the wheel. They're just trying to keep him safe up there.
Yeah, don't be surprised if Chris Froome is a high finisher today. Quite often he likes to stay safe, and he will go for it. G as well, acting as wingman for Chris Froome. I've seen sprints before where Froome has actually come in 5th and 6th place, and it can happen.
Wheel.
He is indeed. Spotted him, and there Francis de Gier with Kevin Retzer up believe, who's going to be their chosen man today. He might hand over duties to Lorenzo Manzin. 3 kilometres to go. It'll be the 2-ban and the next one you see. And they spread wide here. So this is your approach. They are taking a gentle left, then they'll take a more focused right-hand swing once they do that. Once they hit the roundabout, they have that nasty, nasty quarter turn to take. In at 4, out at 2 o'clock, if you see what I mean, quarter.
And here comes Philippe Gilbert as well on the right-hand side, just in front of the man in green there in his red and black colours from BMC.
Alexei Tadevich of Team Katusha closest to us with the big red, big white K resplendent upon his jersey, as you can see. It's a strange one, this, because you've got all the big names wanting to be protected and not wanting to get it wrong or end up in a silly place.
And here goes Sky.
And you've also got, of course, the fast men as well. Here we are. Opening it up, and Caio Rural, suddenly there's space for them, and Carlos Barberdo and Edouard Prades, his lead-out man, is gunning this. They will know the terrain, most certainly, with 2 kilometres to go. There's that little quarter turn. That's the nastiest of them. They'll have another roundabout that they'll breach, and then they'll come back towards the finish line, essentially. So this is that second roundabout approaching right now. In fact, it's a big-ish turn. That was indeed the roundabout. They will go over a big bridge now and come to another. There's this roller coaster effect that we were telling you about. It's all opening up right now, and there is Buani. He's wearing the white-ish jersey with his red Cofidis teammates just in front of him. Final kilometre right now. Not quite. They've got to go round this roundabout, and suddenly it opens up. So it's downhill from now. Jeffrey Soup keeping it very, very calm just for now. Everybody else, including Gianni Meersman here. Meersman in the house for Edix Quickstep in the blue. He's got Julian Alaphilippe, who's grinding himself, burying himself, perhaps on behalf of his teammate. BMC's Gilbert goes over and just tags on to the Ethics man. No space in the road. Buani's logged out. Is he logged out? Now he's going to log on, and it could be glory. There goes the bearded man, the bearded figure of Jeffrey Soupe. He takes him, and they're surely going to take this victory. It's downhill from now on in. Oh, trying to get back into this downhill. He's not going to get there. All the way down to the line. When will Buani go? Now is the answer. Here he goes, who just balks Gianni Meersman, who jigged over to the side of the road. It's a big crush there. For Katusha's been locked out of it, and Buani makes it pay. Good work.
Well, another very, very well run sprint by Cofidis, I've got to say. They were cool and calm and just waited for the right moment, and clearly that was very much within Buani's sort of capability as such.
That was Satovic having a go at Philippe Gilbert.
Yeah, I think that Team Sky actually got that completely wrong for Ben Swift. They expected that, I think, that finish to be harder than what it was, and Jeffrey Soup really did a good job.
Few elbows here. Satovic for Katusha felt like he was hampered. I don't think it was Philippe Gilbert coming through that did the damage. Let's look over to the left-hand side of your screen. You can see Retzer struggling to stay upright as well. That was the chosen side of the road because they all wanted to be on Buani's wheel, essentially.
Well, they clearly did. I mean, it's the wheel to be on. Ideally, you need to anticipate that wheel moving ahead, because when Buani kicks, he kicks so hard that he gaps everyone straight away. His sprint is the first for the 5 to 10 pedal strokes, and after that, he just holds that speed, whereas other people sort of build up to it more gradually. So, if you're going to have anything to do to contest Buani, you need to really anticipate his jump and effectively get on terms with him before he actually kicks. And I think so far everyone is kind of staring themselves blind on what Buani does.
We'll see how he goes tomorrow, frankly. Here's the head-up view for you right now. As soon as the security bike gets out of the way, you'll be able to see a bit more. Jeffrey Soup, he kept it very, very sensible, didn't he? And in fact, he really bode his time well. Meersman it was that he saw go, and that's what ignited him.
Well, the good thing, I think, was what Jeffrey Soup did. He was really quite cool and waited for a long time before he kicked again. He only launches his lead out with about 400 meters to go, and at that point they've already reached that flat point and are starting to head down towards the false flat descent. And once Buani goes, it's just he is in a different class.
Certainly was. Buani then takes the day, and it's kind of workaday, I guess, this for Nacer Bouhanni. He is the best sprinter within the field, and he's proving it again and again. So, just adding to his success rate so far. Good for him. Nacer Bouhanni's kind of woken up. He's in a happier place than he was in Milan-San Remo, where he dropped his chains, tragically.
Well, when you start winning, obviously you're in a good place, but you know, mechanicals happen.
Nacer Bouhanni takes it ahead of Meersman. Philippe Gilbert, third place today, ahead of the disgruntled Satovic of Katusha. Carlos Barbero it was for Cairo Rao. Karl Reinen, good lad, the American, getting up for sixth place ahead of Gasparotto, Van Genegten, Vanchak and Kevin Retzer. Well, dramatic finish on what was one of the quieter days today. Is that paint dry yet?
I don't think it is.
Here's your teams. Team Sky. This is best 5 finishes from each team. So your finishing positions are the best 5 riders, and Team Sky have taken over this competition. I think it was Cairo Rao, was it yesterday, or Ethics? Can't remember. But Team Sky are leading this one today, or at least this is how the stage panned out. So plenty of personnel towards the 4, but didn't really work. Well, there we are. It was a good start to this race, and at the end, I delivered. Well, it's going to be very, very difficult over the next the next 3 days. What's your strategy going to be? Well, you know, first I'm going to see what happens tomorrow, he says. This morning, I wasn't in a great shape. I had a stomach problem and had to see the doctor, so I hope I feel better tomorrow. That's not a pre-excuse, is it? I hope we see Nacer Bouhanni tomorrow. He might have other fish to fry, but it'd be a shame if our glorious leader, who's now extended his lead overall, courtesy of twice picking up 10-second bonuses by taking stage 1, and now, of course, stage 2. He's 100% so far. Won't be like that at La Molina tomorrow. That's just looking at Nacer Bouhanni doing the business yet again. He's a happy soul when things are going well, although apparently he's not been well. I did tell you that sickness has washed through, should we say it, keep it cleanly, the peloton, I'm afraid. There's been a few incidents of food poisoning, Magnus, and that is debilitating. It causes a great deal of weakness, and you ride on at your peril because you pay the price later, don't you?
Well, riding with any kind of stomach issues is very difficult. It tends to knock all the power out of you and all the energy out of you as well. So it's unfortunate when this happens, and sometimes it does when all the teams are staying, or a lot of the teams are staying in the same hotels.
Silvos will